Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I want to talk about a press release from the Greater Sudbury Police Service. This is going to be one of those videos, so I'm going to pour myself a drink. But before I do that, just by way of illustration. Alright, now putting the guns away, because don't want to mix the two, but this is going to need a drink. Alright, now that the shotgun is back locked away, I've traded it for a drink. Let's have a look at this. This is either a terrible example of how to write a press release, or it's a terrible example of policing. And we're not going to get enough detail to be really sure one way or the other, but let's have a look at what's going on. So we see weapons complaint in Chelmsford, which I take to be a neighborhood of Sudbury. I have never actually been to Sudbury. On September 29th, 2020, at approximately 10:30 p.m., we received a call regarding a weapons complaint at a residence on Shirley Street in Chelmsford. So my first thought here is, that seems to be really specific if they're talking about, where guns might be found. I thought, well, maybe Shirley Street is a big, long street. It's 2 blocks. So they've basically pointed a roadmap here. This is a bad idea. Do not give the street. Anyway, so that's the first complaint I have with this. So we see a man was believed to be in possession of a gun and ammunition and could be heard unzipping a gun case and racking the gun several times, causing a woman in the residence to fear for her safety. The woman, who is known to the man, fled the residence and contacted police. Shortly after, the residence was secured and containment was set up by patrol officers. Officers made countless efforts to communicate with the man, who remained inside the residence. It should be noted that the man at this stage doesn't appear to have anything that would obligate him to present himself at the door in order to be arrested. He doesn't have any requirement to talk to the police. He doesn't have any requirement to come out. If they've got a warrant to arrest him, they can go in for that purpose, but clearly they didn't, because they're not going in at least at this stage. Due to the man's unwillingness to cooperate with patrol officers, tactical officers attended the scene. So now we've got guys in probably camo with, the same rifles that Bill Blair is telling us are intended only for killing people. So if we believe our politicians, they'll be there with killing people rifles. I'm being a little facetious here, but, so tactical officers have attended the scene. After numerous attempts to make contacts with the man was eventually taken into custody by tactical officers. No injuries were sustained to the man or to officers during the duration of the incident. We don't know here if he came out or if they eventually got a warrant and went in. I'm going to assume he probably just got tired of having them shout at him with loudspeakers and exited the building. But that's just a pure assumption here. Police seized 3 non-restricted long guns and a small quantity of ammunition from the residence. This is the first time I've ever actually seen a police report that called something a small quantity of ammunition, because normally if you've got a box of, 20 cartridges, they'll say, oh, a large quantity of ammunition. So I don't know how little ammunition this is, but it's got to be real little if they're calling it a small quantity of ammunition. The 29-year-old man has been charged with the following offense under the Criminal Code of Canada: careless use of a firearm. He was released on a promise to appear with a first appearance court date of December 23rd, 2020. His name cannot be released as the information has not yet been sworn through the court process. Police have determined that there is no threat to the public or to the area of the incident. So here's the first thing that sort of jumps out at me, is that we don't actually know what this interaction is here. This could be roommates. This could be a tenant in, a basement and a landlord upstairs, or the reverse. They could be in some sort of domestic partnership. They provide us with no context as to what's going on here and why she's supposedly fearing for her safety. Is she fearing for her safety just because she heard gun noises? Because that's a bit concerning. Or is there something where there was a dispute and then, they're having some loud, angry argument and then they split up and then there's gun noises? But you'd think that if that was the case, that they would charge something else here in terms of, uttering threats or possession of weapon for purposes dangerous to the public peace. If if I get into an argument with somebody and the next thing I know, I hear that they've grabbed a gun and they're making sort of threatening noises with it, that might be a possession for purposes dangerous to the public peace more than a careless use. So I'm inclined to guess that this is probably not something like a domestic fight that escalates to pulling the guns out of the case. It seems that the most likely conclusion here is just someone heard noises and called the police. Now, the police would have been able to check on, in their databases that there is a licensed gun owner here. And how do I conclude licensed gun owner? Well, we don't have any charges for possession of firearm without a license. So that appears to suggest that there was a license here and that these are lawfully owned firearms. So I could be wrong. There could be details here that the police haven't left in which case this is a terribly drafted statement. But what this looks like is a gun owner was manipulating his firearms in the home, and that they decided to send out tactical, notwithstanding the fact that they could have easily checked and seen that this is a law-abiding or licensed, at least, gun owner. And if all they've got is noises, that doesn't seem like enough to issue a warrant, to get an arrest. This is really sort of, I'm wondering what's going on here, because either the police have written this this statement in a way to make their actions look unjustified, or their actions might be unjustified. That's a concern to me. And in terms of why he would be sort of fiddling around with his firearms in ways that make noises, if you're not a gun owner, this is something that may not sort of leap out to you. But there's all sorts of things that you might be doing with your firearms in your home that are legitimate, lawful things to be doing. For instance, you might be checking the function of a rifle or shotgun or whatever, making sure that it's in good order. We're getting towards hunting season. If you're thinking, I'm going to take my pump-action shotgun out and take down some ducks, you might want to make sure that, in fact, it's functioning the way you expect it to be, because maybe you left it in there for, several months without checking in on it. You might also be engaging in dry fire practice, which involves, dry firing is firing without live ammunition in it. And people do this because they're practicing it. It's a good way to sort of practice the handling of the firearm without actually going to the range. So it makes it a lot more possible to practice more often. You can have people practicing, for instance, reloading. So if you ever watch on YouTube, there's plenty of videos of people doing speed reloads where they're, and some of them are just amazingly fast. But the way to practice that is going to be probably loading a magazine with a couple of snap caps and, dropping a magazine, sliding in another one, getting it ready to go. All of this, if done properly, can be perfectly safe. If you're a homeowner or a tenant in a home, you are almost certain to know which directions are safe. If you have made sure that the firearm is unloaded, if you are, taking all of these precautions. The simple fact that a gun is making noises by its operation does not in and of itself create a danger. And here all we have is careless use of a firearm. I'm wondering how they get to the careless use. If all they have is, we heard gun noises, that seems so far from the standard of careless use. So this is an interesting file, or interesting sort of set of circumstances. I'd love to know more because it's really vague here. In fact, the only place where they're giving really details is to provide the guy's street. Why are they giving the street and not telling us the actual grounds for why they're going after this guy beyond simply someone heard noises? And if this is simply a situation where someone heard noises and got afraid in an unjustified fashion, then really the proper response here would probably be to say something along the lines of, sorry, you may hear noises. We checked, the guy's got a license. We don't have any reason to go in and arrest him. Now, to be fair, this, this might have been a situation where the guy might have come out and explained things, but explaining things is almost always a bad idea. I personally would rather get taken into custody on this than to go out and start giving a story, because as we see, once they roll out tactical team, they're looking to arrest somebody. So the whole thing of, we also don't see careless storage. So it appears that these firearms were probably properly stored, properly being dealt with. It looks like they showed up with the intention to charge the guy, and he wasn't going to talk his way out of that. I don't see that that was a likely scenario here. People sometimes think, I'll talk my way out of things. But once tactical is there, there's no talking your way out of it. They're going to want to charge you. So this is kind of, I don't really know what to make of this. On its face, it's disappointing, but there might be more to it. I could be reading things in here that, maybe the police have a better case and better justification than they've felt like giving us. But this right now, it looks bad. And so I'm curious. I'm wondering, what'll happen with this file, if they're actually going to proceed with the charges. And we'll see. I'll try to keep an eye on it, but it can be hard to do so in circumstances like this. Thank you for watching. If you found this interesting or educational, please like, share, and subscribe. I also want to thank my $10 Patreon supporters, My Buddy Keith, Process Eng, Stephen Larson, General Counsel of the CCFR, John Robinson, Tim Rogers, Roy Haddock, Fracklestack, Jean-Alexandre Tessier, Cameron Johnson, Sir Goat, Sights and Arms Limited, Chaba Hollow, Peter Hynam, Craig Kwan, Akin Coxall, North Central Process Service, Toys Are for Boys, Ian Vaughn, Milan Vrakic, I hope I pronounced that correctly, but this probably hasn't helped, Terrence Griffiths, Don Thompson, and a special thank you to $30 supporter Stephen Browning. Thank you, and I hope this has armed you with knowledge.